Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is your host Majestic speaking with another episode of MechWarrior Online here. And today we're going to be taking out the TIMBERWOLF hero Warrant. And as you can see, we're playing our first round on Tourmaline Desert. And as you can tell by the loadout, we do have a very brawly build, and we will go further into that in the mech lab after this round is over. So first and foremost, as you can see, we're using that LB-10 just to get some long-range fire, even if it's only partial damage, to suppress that other TIMBERWOLF that's across the way there. Now we also have 4 small pulse lasers and 2 SRM-6s with Artemis, 2.5 tons of ammo for the LB-10, and 3 tons of ammo for the SRM-6s. Now, just based off exactly where all of my team is kind of focusing up right now, looks like we're trading across the way next to one of the big craters on our side of the map. So we're just doing a little peeking, a little poking, trying to just get a better sense of exactly where they're stacking up. But it looks like they might be actually making a little bit more of an aggressive move towards the center. And if we look across the way, I was seeing a little flash of a couple mechs running across here. We do have to be careful. We put down an airstrike there, and you can see some lerms flying, heard a Gauss rifle going off, so there is some long-range trading going on. PPC hit the natural terrain in front of us, and poking out, we see 2 assaults right across the way. They're going to put some damage down on me, but I'm not going to do my team any good standing back there, so I'm going to make my way up towards the Echo and Foxtrot lines. Whipping around this corner here, we looks like we have a Marauder right in front of us. We are accompanied by our friend, this Locust, and we're going to be able to put some free damage down on this Marauder if he doesn't have any help back here, and it looks like he's just kind of stalled out there, so we're going to put some damage into his center torso, that left and right torso, and now both weak center torso is cored. We're going to put a couple more shots down, and one more salvo should do it, so he goes down, and that gives us a very early kill. 3-2 is the score, and we are only just past the 12-minute mark. Now, checking out the seismic sensor on the map, there are a lot of targets right around this corner, so we're going to have to be tactful here. This king crab coming out looks like he's going to be aggressive on us, and he's definitely out of position, not being helped out much from his friends, down to 80%, and my team is helping get down some amplification damage. Turning around the corner, though, he does have some friendlies back there, but that king crab is down to 74%. Weak torsos, and up top, as you can see right there, that Shadow Cat looks like he's going to put down some amplification damage for the team, just to serve as a distraction so that the rest of his team can fall back a little bit. But my team is there. We're keeping an eye up on that ridge, and this Locust is being a little cheeky, poking around the corner, just getting some extra stabs in there, and there goes one of our opponents here. And based on the carcass on the ground, it looks like it was an Ebon Jaguar. So that leaves this Marauder completely uncovered, and he has no support from any of his friends, which gives us some free shots into his torsos. There is something shooting me in the back, so we're going to turn around here. Not really. Was that Shadow Cat? I think that Shadow Cat, yeah, he's hopping around, trying to get some large laser fire down on us. And finally, we get the kill shot on that center torso. So now just a couple of opponents left. It's 8-2 at this point. This Stalker's in front of us. They're going to put some damage down on us, but we're going to tank a little bit just to help the rest of our team get into position. This is where they take off my right torso, but they left my left torso, which still does have that LB-10 in there. My center torso is cored, so I'm going to back up a little bit, let the rest of the team finish him off, and just provide amplification and support damage at this point until the end of the round. 11-4 now. One more guy to go. This Kodiak in front of us, and he is just getting plastered to death as he's backing up. Just a lot more amplification there from the rest of the team, and ultimately they clean him up. And that is going to do it for the round. Didn't even hit the 10-minute mark here on Tourmaline Desert, so a very, very fast match. 2 kills, 5 assists, 4 times doing the most damage, 949 damage total with 3 components destroyed. Now, I know you guys might be thinking to yourself, that's a lot of damage to put out in a very short amount of time, and I'm going to dive into the mech lab and show you guys exactly why that is in just a second. I'm going to go through the loadout, go through the description, go through everything that you need to know about this mech, and explain exactly why the constant DPS output from this mech is its strongest suit. It might be an unconventional build, but it's not an unconventional mech. So let's head back into the mech lab and go through all the details. Alrighty guys, welcome back to the Mech Lab, where we're going to go through a comprehensive overview of exactly what the TIMBERWOLF hero Warrant has to offer. Now, first and foremost, what we're going to do is we're going to dive straight into the mech lab, and we're going to go through the hard points and the quirk summary list, and then go through details as to what I placed on it, why I placed it there, follow up with some modules and exactly what I placed on it and from that perspective, and then dive into a final round of gameplay. So first and foremost, let's dive into the specs here. If we check out exactly what the hard points include, they are 1 ballistic, 4 energy, 2 missile, 0 AMS, and 0 ECM. Now this, although it is a clan hero mech, it does have a quirk summary list. So if we check those out just for a second here, we have turn rate bonus of 10%, XP bonus of 2.5%, ballistic cooldown and LBX cooldown bonuses both 5%, and then missile velocity and missile cooldown both 10%. So that is the reason for exactly why I placed what I placed on this mech. So if we check back in the loadout for exactly what I placed on here, I know that the LBX cooldown will stack on top of the ballistic cooldown to give us a 10% cooldown in total if we decide to occupy that ballistic hardpoint slot with an LBX weapon. So I decided to go with an LBX 10. I could have gone with a 20. You can actually fit a 20 on here, but you'd kind of be having to mess around with some of the other components and hardpoints and heat and everything like that. And I wanted to make this thing as heat efficient as possible and keep firing off that LB10 as often. And you know, when I'm in a decent position, I don't want to have to wait for that reload in order to give my opponent the opportunity to see where I am, get some damage down on me, and then me kind of, you know, scattering and trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to, again, get another shot off. So I decided to go with the LB10. Cools down a lot faster. I have that 10% bonus with the quirks. Now, one thing I want to point out to you guys, because the Timberwolf in general is an omnimech, you do have to keep all of the omnipods on there in order for the quirks to apply. So if I were to switch this Timberwolf right arm out, for instance, you'll see if I highlight over the right torso or any of the other hard points on here, all of those quirks are now grayed out because it is considered an 8-piece omnipod bonus. So you do have to have all 8 pieces of the original mech that you purchased in order for these quirks to apply. So this would not work if I were to make it into, you know, a Frankenstein kind of build where I'm putting on, you know, missile hard points from, you know, one of the other variants, and then, you know, I decided to laser boat with, you know, or even put a ballistic in the right arm with the C variant or anything like that. You do have to keep all 8 original omnipods on here in order for the quirks to actually be applicable. So if I place that Warrant right arm back on here, you'll see if I highlight over it again, everything is now illuminated in gold, which means I have all 8 omnipods, and everything that I have on the mech will actually be applicable if those you know, quirks are for those weapon hardpoints. So again, I'm going to put these small pulse lasers on, and then back to the equipment, put this double heat sink back in there, and there you have it. So that is the intention and the reasoning behind why I didn't make this into a Frankenstein kind of omnimech, because I wanted those quirks to apply so you see in the raw form what the Warrant hero has to offer. So in case you guys were on the fence about purchasing it, you know, if you just like your Timberwolves regardless, then yeah, you're probably going to wind up picking this up anyway. If you're going for the quirks and you think that this particular style and this particular, you know, loadout in particular might help you or be in, you know, an added value to your play style, that might be another reason to consider this particular build or this particular mech variant. But again, I just wanted you guys to make you guys aware of the fact that you do have to have all 8 omnipods on there in order for it to apply. That's the reason why the loadout is what it is, so that I can get the quirks and the bonuses for every weapon that I have on here, with those you know, quirks being actually being applicable. So I have the LB10 in there for the ballistic hardpoint. The 2 missile hardpoints are occupied with SRM-6s. Again, with the LB10, you do need to get close range in order to make this thing fire off and get all those, you know, those pellets to actually hit their target. So if I'm at that close distance kind of brawly range, the only real thing that makes logical sense to place on for those missile hardpoints are the SRM-6s. So I placed 2 SRM-6s in there with 3 tons of ammo. The LB-10X has 2.5 tons of ammo. And then those 4 energy hardpoints, considering I am very, very close range, as I mentioned before, I decided to go with small pulse lasers. So, it's a very, very brawly build, as you saw in the first round. You're about to see it again in the second round, but I know some of you might be thinking, well, with 1 ton, for each of these particular energy hardpoints, you have 4 tons to work with. Why didn't you go with mediums and give yourself a little bit of extra range? And the simple answer to that is because of heat efficiency. So I wanted to make sure that this thing was very heat efficient, and if I commit to a brawl, I want to make sure that I keep this thing as heat efficient as possible, continuously put down DPS on our opponents without having to worry about overheating. The burn duration of mediums is great and everything, and they definitely put out more damage, but especially when you want to put down more continuous DPS on your opponents, you have to think more along the lines of heat efficiency, and although you will be sacrificing range, and in this case damage even, that continuous DPS is what's going to get your opponents to back up. So with this particular setup, I'm including the ballistic that does cater to those quirks with the LBX cooldown. It's a 5% bonus, and I want to just make sure everything counts. So the LB5 or the LB10 on there gives us that 5% bonus, and then the generic ballistic cooldown gives us a 5% bonus. Then we have the SRM6s that have the applicable missile velocity and missile cooldown bonuses, both 10%. Nothing applicable to the energy hardpoints. So I was just really filling out the rest of this build so that it did cater towards how I set this mech up for the other hardpoints, and then just filled it out based off of that. So 75 out of 75 tons, 71 out of 78 slots, 460 out of 462 armor. Only took 2 armor hardpoints out of the head, and that was that allowed me to fit another clan double heatsink in there. So it is very, very heat efficient. We have a 1.4 heat management ratio and 18 double heat sinks. That includes 10 in the engine, 5 here that are preset on top of the engine, and then 3 that I placed externally. So the 10, 5, and 3 is 18 in total. 58-point alpha. So it's not necessarily the strongest alpha that you'll see, but the whole thing here is the fact that it's very heat efficient in this capacity, and you're looking to put down constant DPS on your opponents, sever some components, maybe get some kill shots and everything. Pinpoint damage is going to be applicable with the small pulses and the SRM6s, and then the the splat effect even still applies for the SRM6s and the LB10X. So with Speed Tweak, this is a mastered mech, 87.1 kph to work with. No jump jets or anything. You can't put jump jets on it. You can't. It's just not an option. It comes preset with an XL375. So huge engine. Great loadout, great DPS. You saw in the first round, even on hot maps, there is still a risk of overheating, but for the majority of the time, you're not going to be in that ridiculous kind of engagement where you're putting down fire on 3 or 4 opponents, one after the other, and like you saw, it's kind of a one-off scenario. So it's very, very heat efficient from that capacity. The heat management ratio and the double heat sink speak for themselves, so it's not only heat efficient, but the heat dissipation is also there, as you guys were seeing. But let's hop into the modules here so you see exactly what is boosting this thing to the level that I have it at. Advanced Seismic Sensor and Radar Deprivation were the 2 mech modules that I decided to go with. I could have either gone with 2 mech modules or 2 weapon modules, and then one of either or, whichever one I didn't decide to do 2 of. And that is a limitation here. You do have to take that into consideration because there are other mechs out there that could have, 3 mech modules, 2 weapon modules, mech and weapon modules, 2 weapon modules. There's so many other options out there that do include more module slots. And although the new system is making its way into the game and modules are going to be useless, I'm curious to see how that actually pans out with the new system, considering there were differences in which mech and variant that you took that determined, how many of each of these slots were actually applicable for modules and how that's going to translate over into the new system and the new, setup. So I decided to go with Advanced Seismic Sensor and Radar Deprivation. Obviously, as a brawler, I'm going to be towards the front line, so I want to be hidden completely if I do get targeted by any opponents. Advanced Seismic Sensor just to know where my opponents are. I want to make sure that if I do know where they are, that I get the jump on them before they get a jump on me. And the one weapon module that I decided to go with, I decided to amplify that LB10X cooldown even further. So it has a 22% cooldown bonus with that level 5 module on there. So, you know, everything pretty much stacks. And for a clan mech to have that kind of, you know, not only firepower, durability, but now cooldown, the sustainability with that DPS and being able to last out there on the battlefield with the clan tech definitely is going to hopefully work in our favor. So you saw in the first round, definitely an interesting scenario. We made it through the entire round. We lost our torso, so we lost you know, a big bulk or a majority of our weapons, but we were able to still stick in there with the fight, and we did have that LB10 remaining. I like to peek with my right side, so if I know that it comes for crunch time and I'm, you know, near the end of a match, what's left? Well, whatever's on the left side, because if I like to peek with my right side, that means the right side is more vulnerable. So I want to bulk up that left side just in case another scenario like that first round does happen again, in which I still have my backup weapons and, you know, that LB10 amplifying that cooldown is going to help us, you know, get our way through the rest of the round. As for the consumables, Cool Shot 9x9 and the improved airstrike. So again, I want to keep this thing as heat efficient as possible, especially if we do run into another scenario where we're up against 3 or 4 opponents at the same time, and we just need to keep putting down DPS and help amplify with the rest of the team, or face tank for the rest of our team to help get them in position and help us out in amplifying the damage. And then the improved airstrike, simply just whether it's a tactical maneuver just to get our opponents to back up, or if it's real intention there is to actually put down some damage. That is the reason for both consumables. But enough chatter. Very long explanation, but I think you guys deserve this kind of lengthy explanation here, because a clan hero, you have to spend real money in order to get it. You're not going to get this in an event or, you know, through C-bills or anything like that. So I really want to give you guys an in-depth look before you actually go out and decide to purchase it or not for yourselves. So I hope this was a great comprehensive overview. Enough chatter for now. Let's hop back out in the battlefield for one final round in our TIMBERWOLF hero, the Warrant. Here we go. Alrighty guys, welcome to the second round of gameplay here on Crimson Strait. We did top the leaderboards last time. Let's see if we can get a repeat, and this time in a heat neutral map. So it is a little short and long range intensive depending where you are on the map, but we're going to make the best of it as you know, best as we possibly can. Now the reason why I'm starting this match from the beginning is because I want you guys to see the actual formation and movement of my team versus their team. So, you know, it's a very kind of interesting way in how this match forms up. And, you know, I'm going to go through a play-by-play here, but I really want you to take notice of exactly what winds up happening here and just see exactly how the battle unfolds. So there's some traditional gameplay that you'll see on Crimson Strait in this video, and there's also some unconventional kind of tactics that are given here. And hopefully you guys can kind of piece together everything, because it is a very, very different match. It was definitely way out there, definitely unconventional by all means. So we're going to focus up right now, head towards the saddle. They did have a scout up there in that locust that looked like he was kind of just chilling. I'm not really sure exactly what he was doing, but it looked like he was trying to see what was over the top of the hill. We did have some support there, so it looks like he just decided to back up and go back to the rest of his team. But at this point, I'm looking behind us, and although I'm going across the beam here on this bridge, I see the large laser fire underneath, and I message to the team that they are coming from the tunnel. But I'm looking down on the mini-map, and I see we are extremely scattered. There are some of us on the saddle, there are some of us over the saddle, and there's some of us that are left behind the saddle. So I just wanted to take a quick peek and see what was there, and there is a tremendous amount of firepower over there. So I did get one salvo off, and I'm not going to peek again, but I did message to the team, help, we need some help. Couple of us got left behind over here. I'm trying to help them get into a better position, but they're just going to get eaten alive unless we get some help from the rest of the team. But I'm cautiously backing up towards the saddle because I am in a very awkward position right now. They have an assault up on top of the platform. I know the firepower that is right around that corner there, so I'm trying to make sure that I stay aware of both situations that are going on here. This direwolf had laser focus on one of my friendlies that's in front of him, so I did try and put some damage down, trying and get him distracted. He is supported by that Griffin and the Hellbringer right next to him, so we are constantly backing up. We're putting down some extra damage, just letting them know, look, we did stick around a little bit. There are a couple of us here. If you do want to keep fighting us, we are going to fight back. So at this point, I realize some of my team already is over the saddle. They've already committed. Now, I cannot leave anyone behind here. They will just get chewed up. They definitely have the firepower, so I decided, you know what? I have to commit. Now's the time to commit, so we're going to head back, help out the rest of the team, focus up on this Highlander here. Looks like he's going to focus up on me, and I'm going to focus up on him, and it's going to be a brawl. We do have a Shadowhawk behind him, this Spider in front of us, and we're going to face tank, and we're glitching out here, rubber banding back and forth. Tremendous amount of team damage there. Sorry there, buddy, but we're going to go for that center torso on this Highlander. Maybe one more shot, pop that cool shot, and there he goes. So we did get the kill, and we had the Shadowhawk next to us. That Spider helped out with the amplification damage. Again, sorry, we were rubber banding. I'm not sure if I did any damage on that Spider, but if I did, obviously wasn't intentional by any means. Now we're going to give this Shadowhawk some support. Looks like he's going towards the ramp here onto the saddle itself. And whatever was down there did make its way back underneath the platform, so we're pretty much doing a little bit of surveillance. We're all kind of on edge right now. We have to make sure that we're aware of exactly what's around us and what might be coming near us. It's 4-4, so we just tied it back up. And right in front of us, we have this Griffin. Now, originally, I was trying to get some targeting information on him, but I accidentally hit the shift button again, committed to one of the torsos, put some pinpoint damage on it, and he popped like a cherry with that XL engine, so that gave us another kill. 5-4 at this point, just over the 10-minute mark. Now, our base is under attack, and I know that there were a couple mechs going that way, so I'm going to focus my attention in that direction towards our base. We have this Hellbringer right in front of us. We did get a salvo into him, so he's a little beat up at this point, and he did hop down, which is lucky for him, because I think I might have been able to take him. Now, he is accompanied by another Hellbringer, so there's 2 Hellbringers over here, and our base is under attack, so I know that there has to be at least 3 mechs. I don't know how many are on our base, but I do know that there are 2 Hellbringers in front of us. We do have some friends with us. We have a Spider in front of us and an assault mech next to us. But I'm looking down through one of the peepholes here just to see what's there. We are supported by this Marauder 2C, and he got this Hellbringer's attention, which gives us a free opportunity to lay into this Hellbringer's back. He cored up all of his torsos. He's trying to get out of the way. He knows his demise is coming. He went behind the pillar to try and get a better shot on us, but he's going to run out of room. One more salvo into that center torso, and he goes down. So now we're going to look for that other Hellbringer, and it looks like he might be distracted by this Spider. So now we're going to help out, put some amplification damage down, but we actually got the kill. He must have been very, very weak at that point, and he just popped through one salvo of those SRM-6s. Now we're headed back towards the base because we don't know how many mechs are over this way. I'm guessing 1 or 2 based off how many came out of the tunnel originally at the beginning of the match. Now we're poking around this corner here, and we have a Marauder right in front of us, and he's going to focus down on us, but he is extremely fresh, and I have a very, very weak left torso, so I do need to play this very tactfully here, put some damage down on that Direwolf as we circle around this building here. That Marauder is in hot pursuit, and he is not going to give up here, but I'm also looking up at the top of the bar there, and my team is capping their base, so at this point I'm just trying to get some damage down on this Marauder, get him as beat up as we possibly can, but they do run out on that bar up top. We did capture their base entirely, which will end the round early. They still had 3 mechs left, including the Marauder and that Direwolf. 4 kills, 0 assists, 3 times doing the most damage, 1041 damage with 7 components destroyed. An absolutely incredible round. I love this mech a lot, and we weren't even through the entire round. I'm guessing maybe another 100, 150 damage or so left in this thing, but that's what I mean by constant DPS. Over 1,000 damage in just over 6 minutes. Now, we did put down some team damage. That was probably from when we were rubber banding against that Spider, but that Spider made it. He made it through the entire round with us, which is absolutely awesome as well. Great round overall, great time with the team. And at first I was a little nervous about how the team was acting, with like half of us going over the saddle, half of us staying, but they did wrap it up and we were able to get the win as well as survive. But that's going to do it for this episode of MechWarrior Online. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, check out the links in the description. I will have the Smurfy link there in case you guys decide to get this mech and build it the way I have it for yourselves. Please also place any comments, questions, concerns, or suggestions below. Thank you guys all so much for the support at this point, and I look forward to seeing you all on the next one. Take care, guys.